Pope Francis has died. As you know, the news came to us just before 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Time, and the process that will now take place to elect his successor, that will begin in a few days after, in the next week, then 9 days of formal mourning inside the Catholic Church. Then a papal conclave can be held, most likely anywhere between 15 to 20 days after the death of a pontiff. Obviously, that'll be our focus at the start of the show. We'll be going live to Europe in a moment or two's time. And then, of course, we're back to the election, because tomorrow is the day when the very first votes will be cast in an election that is a fork in the road for Australia about whether it continues on the path that it currently is, one that many people say is the wrong track, that every poll has told us is the wrong track right now, or whether we'll have an opportunity to start things over again, to get fresh, new and focused leadership. We'll talk about that, of course, as always this evening. No Sooks, no Lefties this Monday night. Matt Canavan here, Freya Leach as well, looking forward to them. And don't forget, this Sunday night, Kalgoorlie. If you can get anywhere near that beautiful part of Western Australia, I'd love to see you. We're going to be there Sunday, going to be in Perth for Anzac Day, and in Kalgoorlie on Sunday. If you'd like to join us, ourtown at skynews.com.au, ourtown at skynews.com.au. So Pope Francis has passed away. He's done so on what is referred to as Easter Monday in places like Australia, but he was part of formal services yesterday, as late as yesterday, at the Vatican. Extraordinary thing to see, that while obviously in the final full day of his life, he was being driven through the crowds. An extraordinary sight so close to his death. The statement from the Vatican came just around 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Time tonight.
Carissimi fratelli e sorelle.
Dear brothers and sisters, with deep sorrow I must announce the death of our Holy Father Francis. At 7:35 this morning, the Bishop of Rome, Francis, returned to the house of the Father. His entire life was dedicated to the service of the Lord and His Church. He taught us to live the values of the Gospel with fidelity, courage and universal love, especially toward the poorest and most marginalised. With immense gratitude for his example as a true disciple of the Lord Jesus, we commend the soul of Pope Francis to the infinite merciful love of the triune God.
Born and served in Argentina, he became the first Pope of the Americas. That happened some 13 years ago. He was a humble man, and a humble man who didn't even believe he was to become Pope. In fact, he had a returned ticket booked ahead of the conclave that, of course, was called after. The previous Pope had announced that he was going to step down. He, of course, did so before the end of his life, before eventually dying in solitude within the walls of the Vatican. Channel 9, one of the many that have put together a look back at an extraordinary life to become the leader of more than 1 billion Catholics around the world.
265 popes had come before him, but his was a papacy of firsts. The first pope from the Americas, the first pope from the Southern Hemisphere, the first Jesuit in the role. Born in Buenos Aires in 1936, Jorge Mario Bergoglio was the son of Italian migrants who escaped fascist Italy. In 2013, at the age of 76, his fellow cardinals elected him leader of the world's 1.3 billion Catholics.
The process of selecting a new pope will be a decision made by the cardinals of the world, who are on their way as we speak to Rome to make that holy choice. In the past couple of hours, these live photos which come from Vatican City, these live pictures I should say, the empty square out the front of the Vatican, and anyone who's been lucky enough, like I have, in our lives to be able to visit this incredible place, of course, a nation amongst the many nations of the world, and right in the middle of Rome, it is its own country, of course, Vatican City. There are many thousands which are making their way to mourn the passing of the Pope, and also many will stay through the process of his funeral, and then even more will be there upon the announcement of the next Pope. The process of the conclave, which is the process by which the cardinals of the world will vote for whom becomes the successor and the head of the Catholic Church, is one that had been fictionalised in a film that was nominated for Best Picture this year called Conclave, at times ridiculous film, but still an interesting insight into the privacy and the positioning that does take place, because this is the ultimate centre of power for, as I say, a billion people around the world. Again, Channel 9 with what happens next and the process of selecting the next Pope.
What you will see over the coming days is that square fill up with pilgrims from around Europe and indeed further afield as they come to pay tribute to Pope Francis, who has died at the age of 88. Of course, the death of a pontiff triggers a huge transition for the Catholic Church. After Pope Francis is farewelled, the new head of the Church needs to be appointed in what is truly a deeply symbolic process.
Meaningful as well, not just symbolic. In a moment we will be crossing live to Rome, but first some of the reaction that has happened around the world. His Majesty King Charles has released the following statement. My wife and I, most deeply saddened to learn of the death of Pope Francis. Our heavy hearts have been somewhat eased, however, knowing that His Holiness was able to share an Easter greeting with the Church and the world that he served with such devotion throughout his life and ministry. His Holiness will be remembered for his compassion, his concern for the unity of the Church, and for his tireless commitment to the common causes of all people of faith, and to those of goodwill who work on the benefit or work for the benefit of others. In Australia, the Prime Minister spoke just after the news.